miles to get to Canton. Canton was where the Japanese were in Canton. It was 33 miles from there, 33 miles that they had, the British had for Kowloon, for the part of Kowloon. They had 33 miles from there. Canton was where the Japanese were, because they had captured that from the Chinese, all this land, and so they started marching in again into Kowloon. But there was A Company and the Punjab regiment. There was Punjab regiment that was. They were holding the Japanese back so we could, all our company and the regiment could move to the island. See, they were doing the fighting closer to Canton. So then they were going to pull back, keep pulling back, and then go over to the island too. But they lost a lot of men, because some of them I talked to after in the prison camp that said it was just like a bunch of ants coming. They were so, they just could never hold them back, because there was so few of one company trying to hold back 27,000. It just was kind of impossible.
Could you hear this fighting, or are you seeing anything?
I didn't do no fighting, because I was in our platoon going. I came down to the dock, but they sent us back up again to where we was. So I was in this at this pillbox, and of course we set up right away. The sergeant said to me, take 3 men and set up that their Lewis gun up on the hill over there. You can man it from there, because they're going to bomb that, the planes are going to bomb that thing, and then you can fire at the planes with the Lewis
bombing the reservoir, Gordon?
They're going to bomb that reservoir. Oh, they figured they were going to bomb the reservoir. See, but the planes come over, but they never touched the reservoir. They came over and they did a real bombing in Kowloon, a lot of bombing in Kowloon, and a lot of bombing in Victoria. And there were just fighter planes, just little fighter planes that came over and did it. But one or two come past us, and we fired the Vickers machine gun at it, but they were too far away from it. But they were trying to bomb company, the battalion headquarters. See, and they were doing that. They weren't bothering little places like the dam and that. And so then I said to the guys was yelling at me, well, we want something to eat. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we haven't had breakfast yet. We want something to eat. They were yelling at me that they wanted something to eat, so I went to the sergeant and told him, I said, they want something to eat. Can I get them something to eat? And he said, yeah, he said, you can go and get something to eat. So I left told the 3 guys that I had with this Vickers machine, this Lewis gun. I said, you stay here. I'm going to go see if I can get something from company headquarters down the road. I'm going to go down and see if we can get something to eat. So the lieutenant from he was a young guy, and he said, where are you going? And I said, I'm going to get the men something to eat. He said, don't you know that the war's on? He said, you can't leave your position. I said, well, I got to get them something to eat. The sergeant said it was all right for me to go and get. He said, you stay right here. You're not going to go. And he said, if you leave, I'll put you on a charge. Like that. He said, there's a war on. And so I went back up to the thing, and he left and went somewhere. So I took off up the road and to get something to eat for the men. See, so I I went to company headquarters, and they had a cookhouse there, and there were people was eating and that, different ones was eating there. And I said, we've had nothing to eat all day. And I said, yesterday we didn't get very much yesterday because we went down to the grounds and we were all hungry there. So they put some stuff there, and then they said, you better eat while you're here. So they put a plate, they gave me this plate with a bunch of bacon and there's some bunch of eggs on it and some potatoes and that. And I was sitting over by this, there was a kind of there was rocks here, but there was a kind of a gully in here with a bunch of trees and it was low down in here. So I sat on this rock and I'm eating and the bloody planes come along and the sirens went first of all, and they were putting the canvas down on where the cookhouse was. It was in by a big cut in the rocks. They had this cookhouse in there, and they dropped this canvas down. It was camouflage. The canvas was camouflaged, and they put the fires out, and they said, duck for color, there's an air raid. So then I was sitting here eating, and I had this plate, and then all of a sudden these little planes shot out from there, and they dropped one bomb over here. I just dived in this here hole, and I lost my breakfast. It went flying, and I ducked down in this hole. The planes come over, and they dropped. One plane dropped the bomb, and the other one fired. I heard machine gun going over here from the other one, and then they went. They just seen some people running, so they dropped this one bomb, and because everybody just scrambled. Everybody that was there just scrambled when they heard the sirens, and then they heard these planes come in, and they just came in once and then they left. So then I got up, and they said this the food was still sitting that I was supposed to take back. It was in the camp. So I grabbed the food and I went back to where these guys was, because I thought, well, gee, I left those men and they maybe got shot by this plane now, and maybe it dropped the bomb on them. So I went back to them, but they said they never seen no planes come over. It was quite a ways down the road, see. So I went back down to them, and then I had some out of the can that they put some bunch of stuff in this can, and I fed the guys. I told them, help yourself on this your food that I brought back. So I had something more there that from the stuff, and then went back and the lieutenant come along again, and he said, what? He said, where did you go? I said, well, I went to get some food from the men. I said, he said, well, you're going to be on a charge after the war. He said, you're going to be on a charge. He says, I'll see that you get course-martialed. So anyway, I said, well, I said, the sergeant told me I could go. He's in charge of my platoon. And so anyway, I let it go. So then they came to me and said, you take 7 men, you're going to be on a roadblock for the Japanese. If they come up from Aberdeen, you'll be, our pillbox was here, and we had to go this way. The road come up past here and went to where I went to get the food. But we had to go back down this road we went down about, I guess, 3 miles down there, and then the sergeant come over and he said, this is how you put the landmines in. He said, you put one on this side and one on this side. And he said, you dig your holes and put the landmines with big steel things that was round about like this. And you put one here, and one here. Then you put 2 here and 1 here. So you have a stick that goes across here on top of your landmine, and you cover that with earth so as it can't be seen. The car comes up and he hits the stick and presses both of these and it blows up. See? And then here, if somebody is walking, troops are walking up here, they step on this one and blow the troops up. So then you have another one here in case this one didn't get them all, this one gets them. And we had a machine gun that I set up back, a Vickers machine gun, which the 7 of us had to run. And then we had a Bren gun and a Lewis gun that we had to work too. That we could, if the Vickers broke down, we couldn't get it going, and we still had other guns to fight with if they come up. So we were all set up there, and there was a culvert over the road just down from where we were. So it started to rain on the first day that we were there. It started to rain, and the guys was getting wet. So I said, well, you can go under the culvert, but stay on the side, because if a lot of water, if it rains a lot, there's going to be a gusher of water and it'll wash out of the culvert. But you can crawl under that culvert. It was a big square culvert. And so it was wood made of wood, and so we crawled in there out of the rain and I had a sentry that had to, he said that I had to have one sentry down the road a ways and one sentry up here a ways, so as to give a signal that any Japanese come up, they would fire they would have we set one machine gun down there and one machine gun this way, pointing the other way in case they come in from either way, Japanese. So that's what we set up. And the sergeant come along and he said, well, you got everything set up right and that, and the company sergeant major come down to have a look how we'd set it up, and he said it's the right way, it's proper. He said you've got it set up good. He said and he said you're to warn us if the Japanese come up from Aberdeen up there, you will warn the company. You'll have one man run back to warn the company that the company headquarters that the Japanese is come up that road. And so he said that's the way it's you're protecting your company headquarters, and you're protecting the rest of the stuff that's coming up the Glenville. So that's your job.
So how long were you
that's what
there?
I was doing.
Oh, okay.
And
how long was that, Gordon, do you think? Was that like a day or a couple days or a week, or how long?
Yeah.
Your time?
We went there on the 7th. We were there on the 7th, and we were there until they came down. They came down on the 23rd. The Japanese never got on the island until the 19th or 20th. So it would be when they came, got on the island. When then the fighting, there was a lot of fighting done on the island, but it was over from us. It was in different other spots. There was 2 or 3 different spots that they were fighting at, and the other regiment, the regiment from Quebec, was over on that part of the island. They were looking after that part of the island. That's where the Japanese landed, was over on that part of the island. So they were fighting the Japanese pretty bad. They got beat up pretty bad. In some of them, they got wiped out. Some of their platoons was wiped right out. And they were protecting different hills. And Japanese had so many, there was so many of them. There was only about 6,000 of us, but there was 27,000 of them. They told us after that they had 27,000. We learned that after that there was 27,000 Japanese that was going to take the island to Hong Kong, but there was another 27,000 back in Canton that if the first bunch couldn't take the island, then they would send the other bunch in to take the island. So no matter how many we killed, there were still going to be lots more.
So when do you know when do you start, from your own view on the on your roadblock, when do you start figuring out that this isn't going very well, or you're told you have to surrender, or what brings you to the point where you start to feel that things are really going bad here and that you have to surrender?
Well, we didn't know how it was going because we didn't get any word much, but we know there was a lot of fighting going on, and we heard a lot of there was a lot of shells being fired over us. Like they did a lot of what do you call it? The mortar firing. The Japanese was mortar firing in a lot of different places, and you could hear them going over. We got one night we got shelled by bombs going over us, but they were firing it from a Navy ship to the battalion headquarters. Shells that was coming over us. You'd hear them whining from way up, and then you hear it get louder and louder coming over us, and some of them would explode up in the air before they got there. And we heard shrapnel falling down on us from up above, and I was sitting there one night, and one piece of shrapnel hit me on the knee right here, and it was on there, and I went like that because it burned. And I went like that and flicked it out, and it fell from up above, and you could hear it. You could hear them just like rain coming down all around you. But we had protection under that culvert. But I was out, I went out to check the guards that was out and told him to make sure he had his tin helmet on because this shrapnel was falling. And so he I made sure that they wore their tin helmet because any of it falling down. But it was just falling like rain. And it wasn't, a lot of it was and then you seen off in the distance, you're seeing different firing, because when you filled you seen a lot of light going across, because when you put your shells into your Vickers machine gun and in your Bren gun, you had 5 live shells and then a tracer, and then 5 live shells and a tracer. And so you had that, you could see the light was like this going, because that tracer shows a light all the time. And it goes so fast, so there's 5 shells has been fired, and then your tracer, 5 shells have been fired, and then your tracer. So.
In your roadblock, are there hills around you? Like you can't see Aberdeen, can you? Or what could you see?
No,
you just see hills? Or?
Aberdeen was quite a ways down from where we were.
Do you see the ocean? Can you see the ocean from your roadblock?
You couldn't see, no. You couldn't see the ocean because it was
all hills and mountains, or
some
trees?
trees, and then the road bent. It wasn't a straight road down.
Oh, okay.
And then when we were there one night, and the sergeant major and all the officers from our company, they came down to me, and they called my name. The sergeant major called my name, and he said, "Gordon," he said, "we're going down to Aberdeen. I want you to take one good man with you, and I'll take you down to Aberdeen. Take us down to Aberdeen. We got a meeting to go to, and the Japanese have broke in from the other end, and they're coming this way. So you don't, you got to go down to Aberdeen, and you will be out in front of us. Take a Vickers machine gun and your Tommy gun, and guard us going down to Aberdeen. So I took the one guy that was pretty smart in the platoon, and I said, you come with me, the rest of you stay here, we'll see you later. And we're going to take the officer down to Aberdeen. So we walked down in front of them in the dark, and we had no light. We just had to guess where we were on the road, you know, and if any of the Japanese had come up from Aberdeen and jumped out at us, we were going to have to keep them at bay for the officers behind us. They were quite a little ways behind us. They didn't stay right with us, and so we went down. We got down to Aberdeen. And then they said, we're going to a meeting over here, you're on your own. And we said, well, we're going up with the men. And they said, no, the Japanese broke in from the other end. They're going to take those men out of there. And you're to, and we said, well, we haven't had nothing to eat today, so we're going to find something to eat. They said, all right, you're on your own. You get back to your company later. And so we went down the road and we seen these two Scotch guys, and they told us there's lots to eat at the monastery down there. So we said, how far is it? He said, it's about another mile down the road there. So we went down to the monastery and we went in, and we said, we're hungry, and they said, well, come on. And all the people that was there was quite a few people there, and they had all our stuff that they had brought from Kowloon, from the barracks, all the lockers, the stuff that was out of the lockers was in this one room, and it was cluttered all over because people got in there and went through it. It was taking things out of it. Was in there. There was cigarettes, cartons of cigarettes, millions of cartons of cigarettes that people had sent to them from their family. There was different things that they'd bought that was going to be sent back home that they hadn't had a chance to send back home. And I didn't find what was in my locker because it was so much. There was all the lockers from the whole barracks was there. And so I went through it, and I picked up some money that I seen laying there. I picked up some money, and I picked up a watch, a wristwatch, and they said, help yourself because the Japanese are going to get it. The rest of the company, they ain't going to get their own stuff. Just take it. You're there for us to go through. So that was the sergeant and everybody else that was there that was telling us to help ourselves. So I grabbed some money and figured, well, that'll come in handy if we're captured, so I grabbed that, and I grabbed the wristwatch. I figured, well, I'll be able to have a watch anyway, and I picked up a deck of cards, and there was a deck of cards. I picked up a deck of cards and a couple of books, and I put it. You couldn't have too much because you didn't have. You had all your other stuff, your army stuff, and you had no place to put it. So I put it in and got it into my pack. What I took, I had in there. And I think then I went and had something to eat. They give us some. They opened up a can of potatoes, and they give us some of the pork they had roasted, and they opened up some bully beef and different things. They put it all on a plate or a mess tin, and we had something to eat. And then the guy said, "How would you like a drink of rum?" So I said, "Sure." I said, "I could stand a drink of rum." So they took me in this other room, and they had these big barrels, great big barrels of rum. And the guy went over and he picked up a can of potato can, and it's about this big around and about this tall that they had in rations in our, and they had emptied it out, the potatoes out of it, so he filled it up with this Navy rum. He pulled the cork out of the thing and held it under it and put the cork back. And he says, drink this. The can about this high. So I drank it, nothing to mix with it. It was just straight, and this Navy rum. I drank it, and I fell asleep. And I slept, and when I woke, when the sergeant was poking me, and he said, get up. He said, time to get up, and look, and it was daylight, and it was Christmas Eve, 24th of December. And
is this your sergeant that's found you, or just a sergeant?
my sergeant was there at the
Okay.
at the place. He was there, and he said, "What did you do last night?" And I said, "Well, we took the officers and that down to Aberdeen, and they told us to leave." And he said, "Yeah, we took the other guys out." He said, "I brought the other guys out from up there." He said, "They're all here," and he said, "I need a guard." He said, "I need a guard out in Fourier out there," and he said, would you go out there for about an hour?" And then he said, "I'll relieve you, and you can have some breakfast, something to eat for breakfast." And so I went out, and I had my Tommy gun, and I was standing out there, and this Englishman was sitting on the step, and he had his rifle between his feet, and he had it up, standing up with his rifle. He said, "They're gonna shoot us. They're gonna kill us." He says, "We're all gonna be scabbies, don't take prisoners of war," and he's going on and on. I said, "Oh," I said, "You got to think positive." I said, "You got to think positive." I said, "They're not going to they haven't captured us yet." I said, he said, they're going to shoot us, line us all up and shoot us." He said, "They're not going to get me." And so I looked over, something was going on over in another place, and I was looking over there, and all of a sudden I heard this bang. I turned around, and this guy stuck the rifle here, and he blew his whole face off. The sergeant come running out when he heard the bang. He figured that somebody had attacked me, and he come running out. I said, "He shot his face off." And he was just a mass of blood. We just blood all over. I got splashed with some of it that flew in the air when he fired it.
Was that one of the first? Was that one
That's
of your
the
first
first-
up close?
That's the first guy that I seen that had killed himself, that was dead. Then, well, they come and they asked me to go down to, they asked me if I'd go down to Victoria on this, the sergeant said, "I want you to go down on this truck." He says, "They gotta go down to pick up some stuff in Victoria that they're bringing up for us. And would you get on the back of this truck and go down to Victoria, the back of this truck?" And there was about five of us on the back of this truck. And we went down the road to Victoria.
So can I just, Gordon, just clarify something? Is Victoria's on the north of
It's,
the island,
it's,
Aberdeen's on the south, and
yeah.
your monastery where you're guarding,
It was down. It was. I think
near Aberdeen.
it was closer to Aberdeen.
Oh,
than
okay.
Victoria. Yeah.
So the Japanese haven't taken Victoria
No.
yet.
No.
Okay.
But they were fighting over on the other side.
Yes.
So anyway, we went down on this truck, and the planes come. The planes come, and the truck driver drove into against the hillside, the hillside, and we stopped for these planes come through. They were out here, but they didn't see us. They would have used a machine gun on us if they'd have seen this truck going down the road. So we waited until they went by, and then we went off. We got down to there, and they put a bunch of stuff on the truck to take back up. And down to some headquarters down there, and it was a hospital. I think it was a hospital, but I seen a couple of bodies laying on the ground. I seen one Chinaman with his head right off. His head was over here, and one body was laying down there when we went down to. They still hadn't picked them up yet. The ones when they bombed, they had bombed Victoria that morning. They had dropped bombs in Victoria. But there was a lot of bodies laying around, Chinese laying around that they hadn't yet picked up. But the one guy that I noticed had his head blown right off, and he was laying there, and it just made me sick to see it. You know, the first ones that I'd ever seen. So then we got down to this place, and I think it was a hospital, because there was people wrapped up. Then it was a place where the people who got wounded, and they'd brought them in here to this place. And so then they put a bunch of stuff that they'd gathered from these people on the truck to take up. And we went through as we were going back up, we went through this truck. They said, help yourself if you want something out of the stuff. We went, I went through this one box, and it was, I guess it was officers that had been shot, and this beautiful handgun was there. So I grabbed it, and I said, this is mine. I shoved it in my front, you know, and I took this one, and I said, I'm going to take it back as a souvenir. And then they had some Japanese stuff there too that they'd captured, you know. But I didn't get any of it. Everybody grabbed this Japanese stuff, like swords and different things like that.
So at this time, you're thinking there's still a chance that you're not going to have to surrender, because you're obviously thinking about
we didn't think about being captured. We were still in the army, you know. The war was still going on. We didn't think about being captured yet, but we knew that it was getting close, that we weren't going to win it. We knew we weren't going to win it. What we were going to do, we didn't know. Yeah. And so then we got back to the monastery, and the sergeant said, our platoon has been ordered to go up on that hill. We got to take that hill, and we got to sit up there and hold it. The Japanese they figured the Japanese are going to take that hill, and we got to go up there and hold it. So we all had to march up this hill, see? And it's pretty high up. To just walk up, you just couldn't walk up it. You gotta have your rifle. Use your rifle as a walking cane. And we were walking up, and one of the guys that we'd taken on from when we were in Winnipeg, when we come back from Jamaica. He was one of the guys that had been taken there, and he was in our platoon. And he was yelling. He was nervous, a very nervous fellow. He was in the bunch that I had, in the 7 guys that I had, and he was very. He wasn't very bright in one way or another. I think he was a. I don't know. I think they just picked him up, and his company went to England, and they just didn't want him in the army, because he was nervous and that, and he had a rifle, but he had it loaded, and I didn't know that he had shells in it. And when he was walking, he tripped, and the rifle went off, and he just both went past my head, and we told him. The sergeant said, empty that gun, empty his gun. Don't let him have any shells in his gun. So we
most of you guys would still have shells in were your guns loaded?
Yeah. But
Were your brothers with you at this point in time? Are
But
your brothers in the...
he hadn't got the safety, he had shelled it, and if you put the safety on, it wouldn't have went off when he tripped. But he was so nervous and so scared that he was going to run into the Japanese that he just couldn't. He was just out of this world. He was just yelling all the time, and they're going to get us, they're going to get us, they're going to shoot us, they're going to kill us, and he went on and on and on. And we tried to keep him quiet, tried to tell him to shut up, and that. That we were there to protect them. We were going to protect them and everything, but it was fired, and so then the sergeant said, "Take his shells on. Don't let him have any shells on it. We'll see that he'll get them. If the Japanese, if we meet Japanese, he'll get the shells on." And so we went up to the top of the hill, and we sat there, and we got mortars flying over us all day, the New Year's Day. So then they said, Christmas Day, we woke up the next morning on top of this hill, and when we woke up, we were getting shelled all morning over top of us and trying to hit the company headquarters, and they were firing from ships out in the harbor. They were firing more shells, and there was some landing short, some landing further over, and so we sat there all day with all these shells going over us, and till about noon, and then the white flag went up in the company headquarters across where they were shelling. The white flag went up, and
About when you looked over and you saw the white flag.
now we noticed the white flag went up. We knew that the governor of the island had surrendered, and so they told us that we had to take our guns and smash them up as much as we could, break them up and throw them away so as the Japanese wouldn't get them. You can't be, they said, you can't be caught with any arms of any kind, and you will be shot on sight if they get you and you got any arms at all, they were going to shoot you. And that was the orders from the Japanese, and that we were to all go up to the battalion headquarters. That was way up on top of the hill where the flag went up. And we had to go up there. The Japanese would meet us up there. And so, so I started up with my sergeant and the other men that we had. And I had that there revolver that I got out of the, maybe I could hide it. Maybe I can hide it. So the sergeant said, "No, it's got to be broke up." He said, "You better break it up." And it hurt me, so I took it over to this rock, and I pounded it like that, and the spindle come off, and I threw the spindle one way, and then I banged it, and it had a pearl handle on the revolver, on the handle, and I hit it against the rock, and it fell, one side of it fell off, the other one split, and threw it a different way, and then I threw the rifle in way over in the trees the other way, or that, and then I broke up my Tommy gun, and I said, "Well, if we have to fight again, we'll just have to fight with our fists." And so they said, "Well, we were running short in ammunition anyway, and we were running short of everything. So you're just lucky that we had enough that the war ended before we run out ourselves." He said, "Probably the rest of them is run out by now because they were doing all the firing." So we marched up to the place, and so when we got up there, I met my two brothers was with me, and they and Fred Fagg, this fellow Fred Fagg, and we got up to the top, of a place, and it came up like this, and then it turned, and then there was a big opening there. So when we got up there, the Japanese still wasn't there. So we went into this place. It was one of the offices. It was officers' mess anyway. So we went into the place, and it was a beautiful room. It had nice furniture in it and everything. And there was a cupboard there. So I think it was Fred Fag. He took his bayonet, he pried the cabinet open on this cupboard, and it was full of whiskey, and I spotted a bottle of rum, and I grabbed it, and I said, "This is fine, you can have the rest." And there was gin in there, and there was rye whiskey and other stuff. And it was a beautiful cabinet with all this whiskey, and so I grabbed this bottle of rum, and I was just drinking it out of the bottle, and they grabbed this gin, and one they were drinking, and Fred Fag got high with this. I just drank it, and I give somebody else some of the rum, and I had 2 swigs of it, and everybody else was saying, "Give us some," and so. We turned around, and Fred Fag, he got really soused. And then they said, "We're going to get something to eat." They had us line up, and we got some beans and some bacon, and some vegetable and that they put out, and they was feeding us this stuff because we marched quite a ways from Aberdeen, and so. Then we seen the Japanese coming. All the big shots of the Japanese was coming up this hill, and they were down below. We seen them drive up, and sentries getting out of trucks and that, and they were coming up this, Fred Fag, he's up on top. See with the Japanese, and he's yelling his head off, and we're telling him to shut up, that they're going to shoot you if you're drunk. And he's yelling his head off, and he has this plate of food he just got, and he says, "The heck with the Japanese," and he threw this food down and went down right in front of these big guys. Sentries come running up, and we grabbed the guy, and we took him in, and we barred the door up with everything, and told him, "Shut up and stay in there, or you're going to get shot." We figured, well, for sure they were going to shoot this guy. They come up and one to know who threw the food down there. And some of the officers said it was a mistake. They just dropped it. They dropped it because they got frightened with all you guys coming up. They got frightened, and they got nervous, and they dropped their food. And they didn't mean to throw it down at you. But this guy had really threw it at the Japanese. He was trying to hit the Japanese with this plate of food, and so we got him in. We told the officers that the ones that was there that was trying to find out who threw it. We told him, we locked him up. He's locked up. He's all right. We got him away from him, and so then they got up and talked about we were going to be their prisoners now, and everything like that. And finally they said they were going to take us down to the bottom of the hills, off the hill, down to the bottom. And
that was your first contact with the Japanese?
So when they come, they got the sentries, and they wired us with a wire around our wrists like this, and then the wire come around our wrists, and then it went up and around another guy's wrist, and then a wire, and we all marched down the hill with it like this, walking down to the bottom of the hill, and it took us all day to go down and off this where the hill was, because it was a long ways down. So we went down to I think it was Remalts Bay. Anyway, they split up the Canadians from the English and Punjabs and that, and they put us in Kaitak. One other camp. Canadians all went in this one camp, and they took not the Americans. They took the English, and the Hong Kong volunteers. They took them over to Shamshapur along with the Punjab, and they were in that camp, and the Canadians was in the camp over on the island. We were on the island, and they went across to Kowloon. Took them across to Kowloon, and we stayed in the camp there, and then two guys dug under the fence. It was just after we got captured, just after we got into this camp. They went under the fence and got out, and they were going to escape, try and get to China if they could. And they came the next day, and they put these posts and put wire around and on insulators and that, and they wired the whole fence all the way around with the electrical wire, and then they had it hooked up so as if anybody tried to escape, they would get electrocuted on this wire. And they told us that nobody was going to leave. They were going to capture those two that escaped, and that the whole camp would be punished if anybody tried to escape. And so then the next day they brought the heads, two heads in of the two guys that escaped. And they said, this is what will happen to you if you try to escape. We will not allow you to escape.
Did you see that, Gordon?
Eh?
Did you see that?
Oh yeah.
Did they line everybody up and?
Yeah, they had us on the police car, brought the two heads in of these two guys, and they said that's the way you'll end up if you try to escape. And they had nowhere to go. They had no chance of escaping because China was all under the Japanese. Anywhere in China, there, close to where we were in Hong Kong. There's no way of escaping. And so we're on an island too. You got to get off of the island. See, our camp was on the island.
Are you in the west side near Aberdeen, or are you kind of?
I don't know.
You can't remember?
I don't know. It's another name. I think the name, I seen it on that map that you had, that on this here thing. I seen the name of that.
That's okay. We can come back to that, Gordon.
Yeah. But
Okay.
anyway, we were in that camp with that, and then I don't know if it was in that camp or when after they took us to Shamshapur. I'm not sure how that worked, but the first year that we were in the camp in 42, that was 40 Christmas of 41 was when we were captured. So when it come the following year in 42, the camp broke out with diphtheria.
Okay.
And I was a carrier. I had been vaccinated when I went to school in Saskatchewan. They vaccinated us for everything, and I was vaccinated, I think, for diphtheria in Broadview when I was a kid. So I was a carrier for diphtheria, but I couldn't get it myself. I could give it to somebody else.
Oh.
I could, so they isolated, I think it was 5 or 7 of us, into one corner of the camp and put us in there to keep us away from the rest of the people, because people were dying. There was 6 and 8 people dying every day with this diphtheria because they had no serum. And they took one guy had diphtheria real bad, so they moved him they didn't have enough room in the place that they were putting all these people that come down with them in this building. So they moved him to where they moved him, the dead people were that had died. They moved him. He was laying on the stretcher, and they thought, well, he's going to die tonight anyway. He's not going to pass. He was pretty bad. They're going. So we'll take him to the morgue and put him in the morgue now. And next morning, they went to the morgue, and here he is sitting up on the stretcher, and he survived. He says, "Get me out! I don't like these people that's in this here, in this place. They're all dead people." And here he survived it. And my brother Morris, they told me that my brother Morris had taken diphtheria, and that he was at the hospital, and he was pretty bad, and that they had brought some serum in, but they'd ran out of it. The Japanese had brought some serum in for diphtheria, and they couldn't give him any because they ran out of it before he had been put into the hospital. So he was one of the ones that didn't get no serum that survived. He survived it, but he got a cardiac heart from it, and that's eventually what killed him. He died of a heart attack later on when he got home. But that was my oldest brother. And then they told us that they were going to put us over in this place. But it was pretty good because we got more to eat being over there, just 5 or 7 of us, because they couldn't bring a little bit of food over, such small portion of food to just 5 people, because it didn't look like it was very much, and so because we didn't get much, we were just I don't think it was that much steamed rice, the bottom of this that that's all you got. But they had, when they took us over and put us into the other camp. I think so many died with that diphtheria that they decided to put us all together, the British and the Punjabs and the Canadian. So they took us, they closed that other camp up and took us back over to Shamshapu. It was our camp that we were living in, the barracks we were living in before the war started. Oh. And the Chinese got in there and tore all the windows out and all the doors. They did anything that was wood. The Chinese needed wood because they burned it they burned it to cook the rice. They had to have wood, and there was no wood around that they could get. So when everybody left that camp, the Chinese moved in. And of course some of them slept in there, and then the huts was all brick, but they tore all the windows out and all the doors, and burnt them, and all that was left, even the frames of the doors was tore out, and so we had, that was our camp, was just what was left of the old camp that the Chinese had gone into. But of course, they slept in there, and bed bugs that they had, they brought it in. There was no bed bugs before when we were living there. But when we went back, there was hundreds of them. I'm telling you, there was days there that we took all the, they just had what they did was they made a kind of an aisleway, but then they made a platform where we slept in rows on this platform. And we had one blanket, and then they put rice straw down on the floor, on this bed that they built. And we had to take this framework that was underneath apart about every 2 weeks to clean the bed bugs up. Because you could hear them dripping off that night. They were dripping off the ceiling, and you were getting ate alive by these bed bugs. And then you got this. The first thing you got was hot feet. Your feet burnt, but when you touched them, they were ice cold, and there was pain and it'd start from the. It would start from it was the malnutrition that you were getting, and your toe would get a tingle in it, and then it'd get hurt, really hurt. Then it'd go right up your toes and into your foot, and it'd go right up your foot, and your foot would fly in the air like that. You couldn't hold it. And when you got it, it was just so much pain that the only thing that you could do was put your feet in cold water. And you had seen hundreds of guys sitting around with a bucket with cold water and their feet in it. Because your feet was burning, just absolutely on fire. And pain in them. And it was all the different things that you were getting from your malnutrition of not having any vitamins, just food. Then you turn around and you went outside and the sun was just too bright. You couldn't keep your eyes. You had to close your eyes when you went outside. The sun was just too bright for your eyes. So you took a rag and you soaked it in cold water and you wrapped it around your eyes and you dropped it over, and then to go around and move around, you look down at the ground, and with that cold water on, and you sun not shining on your eyes, you could move around with just a cloth. Everybody's running around with this cloth on their face, and they couldn't take it off because they couldn't see because the sun was too bright.
Was this still even in Hong Kong? In the camp in Hong Kong, you were suffering those symptoms already?
Yeah.
Is that right?
And
okay.
you got all this stuff in Hong Kong because as the time went on, all this stuff that you weren't getting getting any vitamin. Because you weren't eating anything but just this little bit of scoop rice. And first of all, they give us a little bun. And it was about this wide. It was like a hot dog bun, but a half a hot dog bun. But it was made up very small. And it was Chinese. And you got one of them, and that's all you got. It was just one of those buns. And that was your meal.